You're at a meeting one morning with colleagues. You get up to use the restroom, but fail to return. Your vehicle is still in the parking lot. All of your personal belongings are at your desk. Police arrive and find no sign of you whatsoever. Your friends and colleagues are alarmed and concerned as days go by and still no answer. Until a witness steps up and reveals what seems like something out of a Hollywood crime drama you would never believe. My name is M. William Phelps. I'm an investigative journalist and the true crime author of close to 50 books. I've dedicated the past 20 years of my life to helping families of the missing and murdered. Join me. We're crossing the line. It's March 21st, 2023, about 11:45 in the morning. Largo Police Department officer Jerry Hunt receives a call from his sergeant to go take a look into a recent call the police department just got about a missing adult. Go do a welfare check, Hunt is told. Missing person cases, as they first come into law enforcement, are unfortunately stained with a bit of bias attached, no matter the case. There is judgment immediately made by the first officer to take that initial report, and how they view the case and report it up the chain of command can make all the difference. Largo is a busy area within Pinellas County, Florida, in the Tampa Bay vicinity. Gorgeous scenery and ocean views. On the Gulf side, almost exactly halfway between the northern border of the state and the southern tip, Largo is pretty good size. 20 square miles with a population of over 80,000 people. Officer Hunt heads out to Belcher Road, a one-story building split into separate office suites. His focus is specifically on the Blanchard Law Office. It had been actually Jake Blanchard who called in to report that an employee of his, Steven Cozzi, 41 years old, about 6 weeks from turning 42, had gone to the restroom at about 9:30 that morning, but had not returned to his desk. The reason for the alarm, Blanchard explains, is that Steven left his keys, wallet, cell phone, and tablet at his desk. He was in a meeting at the time he got up to use the bathroom and never returned. I was working with another employee, Blanchard tells Largo PD, when Steven left to use the bathroom and never came back. This is so very odd. The restroom is in a common area of the building on the same floor. Hunt did a quick check of the building and could not locate Steven. No sign of him. Hunt and several other officers then checked with all of the local hospitals, but none had reported Steven checking in. His vehicle is still parked in the Belcher Road office parking lot. When they review the available CCTV video footage from the office building inside and out, it's clear Steven never left the building. By late that same afternoon, the Largo Police Department is confident enough that something is going on. So they list Steven Cozzi as an official missing person. As additional CCTV footage of the day begins to come in, with detectives now involved in the case, a man fitting Steven's description is seen entering the building at about 8:30 a.m. They take stills from that footage and run them over to Jake Blanchard to see if he can identify Steven. He immediately says yes, that is Steven. Steven Cozzi is one of those guys, investigators soon learn, who really doesn't have any enemies to speak of, though they are cautious in that regard, considering he is a lawyer. Steven's colleagues say he is, quote, a kind, genuine soul with a brilliant mind. One attorney from the firm calls Steven by far the kindest person in our practice. Steven had graduated from Stetson Law School in 2016 and was known there as a natural leader who had a positive influence on anyone he came across. His passions outside of work include running in marathons and his cat, Saffron. Steven interned at the 6th Judicial Circuit Court for 4 months in 2015 and the Federal Bankruptcy Court, and even volunteered for a short time at Clemency Research as a federal public defender. Stetson University had given Steven its William F. Blues Pro Bono Service Award in 2016. So the guy is accomplished. He's a great attorney. Guys like Steven Cozzi, Largo investigators know, don't leave a meeting to use the bathroom and disappear into thin air for no reason. Steven is responsible and reliable. He would never walk out the door and not return or call or let someone know where he was going or where he will be. So as an investigator, where do you go from here? First, you need to take a look at everyone in the law office and find out if their stories line up and they can vouch for that time frame when Steven disappeared. Then you need to move on to Steven's most inner circle. In that regard, they contact Steven's husband, Michael Montgomery. Someone from the office had already reached out to ask if Michael had picked Steven up that morning. Maybe they decided to get an early lunch and were off somewhere. Maybe they broke down or something happened. Still, this seems highly unlikely, seeing that everyone in life today is so easily reachable via text or a phone call. Michael Montgomery says later that as soon as someone from Steven's work messaged him and asked if he had picked Steven up, he knew something was wrong. Michael heads right over to the office and meets with investigators to have a chat. Steven would call and tell me everything, Michael explains, insisting that he and Steven always knew where each other were. I say this in a lot of similar cases we cover here on Crossing the Line, but it cannot be underscored enough. Put yourself in the shoes of the family of someone who is missing. And that lost, helpless, empty feeling they have that something terrible is unfolding before them. It overtakes every moment of your life from that time you hear until you get some sort of answer. Studying the CCTV footage even more thoroughly late into that first night Steven is missing, realizing that every moment counts, Largo Police Department investigators see something alarming. At 8:32 a.m., a gray Honda Tundra enters the parking lot. A few minutes later, a dude wearing a white shirt, carrying a backpack, gets out of the vehicle and walks east in the parking lot toward the entrance closest to the Blanchard Law Office. On his shoulder, the guy is carrying what appears to be a large box. He's wearing black gloves. It's hard to make out his face in the grainy video, however. The man opens the door and walks into the main entrance to the building, the lobby area. The dude could obviously be a courier or just delivering something. But the next bit of CCTV video they discover is what piques investigators' interest and alarms them. At 10:22 a.m., which is about 45 minutes after Steven Cozzi goes to the toilet, a man wearing jeans, a blue short-sleeved shirt, carrying the same backpack, and now wearing a surgical mask and a hat, exits the main entrance into the building near the Blanchard Law Firm suite. In addition, as a report of the case indicates, the guy is tugging and pulling what appears to be a small wagon on wheels with a heavy load. They can actually see the top of the wagon, and it seems to be full of something they cannot make out. A red blanket is covering whatever he is transporting. They watch as the dude pulls the wagon, struggling because it is so heavy, out of the door, and then, unfortunately, they lose him on the CCTV. They print out stills from the video and bring them to Jake Blanchard. "Is that Steven Cozzi?" they ask. Blanchard looks closely. "No," he says, "absolutely not. As an investigator, you just get this feeling. And sometimes it doesn't leave you. This is one of those moments." Those looking into the disappearance of Steven Cozzi, staring at this video of a man pulling that wagon out into the parking lot, cannot shake the notion that Steven Cozzi is inside that wagon. It's not long after the man disappears from view of the CCTV that he reappears and is now wearing different clothing. Then that same truck, seen on video driving into the parking lot at 8:30 a.m., is then seen driving back out of the parking lot. So it's pretty damn clear that the same guy who changed his clothes and is seen pulling that heavy wagon out of the building is driving that truck. I need your help. Please subscribe to Crossing the Line wherever you get your podcast. And don't forget, leave a review of the show, especially on Apple Podcasts, and log on to crossingtheline.biz or mwilliamphelps.com to contact me and suggest cases, or just say hi. And look for me across all social media platforms using the @ symbol and my name, M. William Phelps. Thank you for supporting this show. I am allowed to do it because of you, and that truly means more to me than I can say. Be right back after a short break. Investigations today take on more of a technical approach almost immediately. The go-to is obviously computer evidence, be it phones, laptops, CCTV footage, cellular tower and GPS evidence, etc. Exhaust those avenues in an investigation, and you are going to come out the other side with some sort of a trail to follow more organically, gumshoe style, per se. If you're lucky, you get a few names along the way. As Largo Police Department investigators go through the case over the course of the next few days, with still no sign of Steven Cozzi, something pops up in the computer system at the Largo PD. Back on March 14th, a woman working in a veterinarian clinic inside that same office complex where Blanchard Law is, called in to report a strange incident. The woman had just happened to go into a utility closet inside the building to fetch something. And this is close to where Blanchard Law is inside the building. As she does this, she is startled after opening the door and running into a man hiding behind that door. He is wearing jeans, a t-shirt, and a surgical mask, the report of the incident outlines. "Just here checking on a power outage," he tells the woman before hastily taking off. They ask the woman if she happened to see what kind of vehicle the man was driving. "Toyota Tundra, gray," she says. "I even looked at the license plate tag." She didn't recall the number, but said it was definitely yellow and definitely from New Jersey. So now they have a connection to this Toyota truck. And when investigators zoom in on the bed of that truck leaving the parking lot on the day Steven went missing, they can see that the wagon carrying that heavy load, covered by a red blanket, is in the bed of the truck. They then go into the restroom and begin a more concerted forensic examination of the entire room. And they find blood everywhere. on the back of the men's room door, on the urinal, smeared all over one toilet, as well as swirls of dried blood on the floor and a very strong odor of cleaning products throughout the room. None of this looks good, of course. Everyone is thinking the same thing by now. Yet no one wants to come out and say what it is, because if true, it's horrific. A few days later, forensics come up with a major lead. A male left index finger, a very clear print lifted off the back of the utility closet where the surgical masked man was seen by the vet employee. After putting that print into the database, they get a hit on a name, Tomasz Kozowski. They go back to Jake Blanchard and ask if that name rings any bells. There has to be a connection to Steven in here somewhere. Yes, Blanchard says. Steven and Cozowski had both attended a recent deposition in January. It became very verbally contentious. That would be the part when the two investigators interviewing Blanchard, as he gives them this information, give each other that look. We've all seen it. Kozowski even followed Steven into the men's room and accosted him there after the deposition, yelling and screaming, even following him out the door and verbally assaulting him. They then determined that Kozowski owns a Toyota Tundra. He lives in Tarpon Springs, north of Largo, about 20 miles away. This investigation is a great example of how simply following the evidence works in real time. We hear this true crime cliche all the time. Just follow the evidence. In this case, however, you can clearly see how it plays out. A to B, B to C, and so on, eventually leading you to a viable suspect. 44-year-old Kozowski is a wavy-haired plastic surgeon, graduate of Dartmouth College Medical School, who specializes in reconstructive breast surgery. He's been at it in Florida for about 8 years. He lives in what has been called a multi-million-dollar estate on the water, and he goes by Dr. K. So now a picture is becoming clear as far as motive. Steven was one of the lawyers representing Kozowski's former employer, which Kozowski was suing. It's a good bet the doctor believed he was going to lose, and likely his ability to practice affected by this lawsuit. So what does he do? Blame the lawyer, the messenger. And he believes, in his mind, he can actually kill the guy inside the building where he works and get away with wheeling his dead body out of the building and taking it away. For an obvious smart guy, he is pretty damn stupid. We do talk once in a while on Crossing the Line about how stupid some killers are. But a guy who made it through medical school and at one time had a thriving plastic surgery practice, I think we might expect more out of this dude. But that's not how rage and psychopathy works in murder cases. When rage takes over, there's almost a blackout occurring in the mind, whereby the killer is not thinking as logically as he might be able to and convinces himself he has the best plan for murder ever conceived and will get away with it. So the rage and hatred blurs any rational thinking. They get a search warrant for Kozowski's residence in Tarpon Springs. In the garage is that Toyota Tundra. And inside the bed of the truck, they see blood all over the place. He had not even taken the thing through the freaking car wash. This is what I mean about rationality and stupidity. That rage was so overpowering even after he killed Steven. He still couldn't think straight. On the garage floor, they spray luminol and the Milky Way galaxy lights up. There is blood everywhere in swirling patterns. When they get inside that truck, however, a treasure trove of evidence is discovered. His Apple iPhone, a track phone, ballistic vest, black gloves, surgical mask, a .380 caliber pistol, hairnet, knife, a Glock pistol, sponges, $2,000 in cash, a laptop computer, a Sig Sauer 9mm pistol, and then searching deeper into the vehicle, $60,000 in cash wrapped in $10,000 bundles, a gun holster, another $7,000 in cash, a black duffel bag, black garbage bags, several more firearms, a license plate switching device with that yellow New Jersey plate as the alternative to swap out, more masks, various power tools and sedatives and syringes, and then $220,000 in cash. On top of all that other money, the guy had over $250,000 in cash in his vehicle, as well as enough weapons to stage a war. What they don't find, sadly, is the wagon, red blanket, or Steven's body. It is starting to make more sense that they may never find Steven's body, as sad and unfortunate as that will be. Yet as they look at things, there might just be a way to track the place where Dr. K could have dumped Steven's body. They have his cell phone, the computer data from his vehicle itself, and also a track phone. Those items should be enough to map anywhere Dr. K went over the course of time after he entered that building, left, and the moment he is arrested. I'll be right back. Turns out that sedative they found inside Dr. K's truck is a powerful, paralyzing drug. So it's clear that Cozzi used it in his stupid plan to murder Steven Cozzi, a man doing his job and representing an employer being sued by a former employee, a dispute that involved medical billing. When they take all of the GPS and phone data into account, the most likely place they believe Dr. K dumped Steven's body is the Everglades. It's a large area in a remote section west of Miami, known to locals as U.S. Highway 42. They believe that Dr. K found a dumpster in the back of a building in a secluded area and placed Steven's body in it. When they spoke to the company emptying those dumpsters, the driver recalled a more than unusual, vile smell one day as he emptied that specific dumpster. Investigators then grabbed the CCTV footage of the dumpster being emptied and can actually see the larger than normal black garbage bag in the shape of a body being dumped into the back of the truck. Cadaver dogs later verify that human remains were inside that dumpster at some point. They would never find Steven's body because the company compacts all of its refuse and dumps it all in the Collier County landfill, which does not narrow the search down at all, considering how big it is. In reviewing the case, prosecutors decide to seek the death penalty. Cozzi pleads not guilty. The judge orders no bond. His trial is set for May 2025. I don't see how the unhinged doctor gets out of this one. The DNA and CCTV, as well as a host of additional forensic and computer forensic evidence, is certainly enough to tie him to every bit of Steven Cozzi's death. Not to mention the motive. A murder prosecution without a body is difficult in most cases. Yet Dr. K's DNA mixed with Steven's blood is eventually discovered in the restroom and in Cozzi's garage. He also bought that vehicle with cash a week or so before the murder and never registered it. Steven's husband later says something I feel is very important. Quote, "Everybody is going to talk about what happened to him. And to me, that's not who he was. He was brilliant, loving, and caring, but could also be really tough when he needed to be because he was an attorney. But the side of him I saw most was soft and vulnerable." We too often, and it's truly impossible not to, put the focus on the crime and perpetrator when the details begin coming out. And yet, murder is about the victim and their loved ones. It affects them forever. He loved cheap horror flicks and silly B-rated movies, Steven's husband, Michael, went on to tell journalist Ryan Williams Jen. "I don't remember what we watched, but I remember thinking, this is the most ridiculous crap." His sense of humor captivated me. It was just so witty and lined up so well with mine. I came out of reading this article about Steven with a sense that he was an incredible human being. One of those rare people who was full of love for humanity and just anybody around him. It always seems to be the case, doesn't it? We lose the best people to murder, the most productive members of society. We feel helpless in this regard. That's it for this week. Don't forget to check out my limited series podcast, 34 Fairview Road, and Paper Ghosts, which will be back in the spring of 2025 with season number 5. Be safe. Be aware. Sources for this episode include a 15-page affidavit for a search warrant, State of Florida, Pinellas County. Largo, Attorney, Murder by Kaylee Tracy, Fox 13, Tampa Bay, February 21st, 2024. Steven Cozzi was brilliant, loving, and caring, husband says, by Ryan Williams Jen, March 27th, 2023. Crossing the Line is executive produced by M. William Phelps, LLC, and Matthew Valentinas, Mom's Basement Management. Written by me, M. William Phelps. Audio mastering and mixing by Matt Russell. Original music written and performed by Thomas Mooney, Tom Phelps, and Matt Russell.